Hey there, friends and family. I hope everyone's holding up okay. It's a difficult time right now as we're social distancing and feeling the impacts of the COVID 19 global pandemic. So, my heart goes out to everyone who's struggling with actual health concerns or just the social and economic struggles of this time. I hope everyone's doing as well as they can be. And that's going to be some of the blog stuff we're going to be looking at here. So I wrote this piece thinking a little bit about this time. And our post for this week is called Remember. Every year, middle school students from my district attend a day-long retreat geared toward their social and emotional needs. So far as I can tell, it's a wonderful program. Students laugh and cry. They open up about their struggles, and for a few days, everyone is really nice to each other. Then the shine wears off, and things pretty much return to business as usual. The retreat is still important. The concepts and themes of the day get lodged somewhere in the recesses of the students' brains, and that's education. We plant seeds we hope will bear fruit somewhere down the line. The students remember how they felt that day. Sometimes they just forget to remember. We all do the same, and we see it on a large scale. I was a junior in high school when the Twin Towers went down on 9/11. I remember feeling a sense of compassion for the families impacted by those attacks, and I remember the general sense of patriotism and kindness that seemed to permeate American society in the weeks and months following that tragedy. I was a naive 16-year-old, so maybe I was viewing things through the rose-colored lenses of youth, but it really felt like the United States of America. It felt like we were all playing on the same team, if only for a moment. Of course, time went on as it tends to do. Our social problems didn't disappear, and we forgot how we felt when our world was turned upside down and we had to pull together. That's easy to do. We do it in our own lives all the time. We don't feel the pain once it's gone. We might see the scars, but we move on. That's not all bad. It's important to move forward, but it's also important to remember. I've talked about it before, but a 4-year period of my life, spanning from the time I was 28 to 32, was marked by a series of health issues, a divorce, and sharing custody of my children. It was the most painful period of my life, physically, mentally, and emotionally. Fortunately, the clouds eventually lifted, and despite a few lingering side effects, I'm doing very well. Plus, those experiences granted me a deeper perspective. I was able to focus on my priorities. I grew stronger, and I'd like to think I came away a better man. I'm grateful to be past those painful moments, but I'm also grateful for the pain. Sometimes I have to remember that. Now, when I get frustrated because I tweak a muscle working out, I remind myself of the days when all I wanted was to feel okay. When I start to grow tired of repeating a game or responding to 100 shouts of, "Hey, Dad!" I try to remember the looks on my children's faces when they were told they would have to start living in 2 separate houses. Anytime I get caught up with something material or petty, I look back at the time when none of that mattered at all. It's tricky. Thankfully, I don't experience the pain I once did, but that makes it easy to forget. It's easy to fall back into old patterns and get caught up with the obligations of daily life, to stop thinking as deeply and purposefully as I did in my darkest hours. Sometimes, I'd like to be able to tap into that pain for just a moment to bring myself back in line. I don't fixate on previous challenges. I want to constantly move forward, but to keep an eye on the past. I just don't want to forget how tough things can be. That helps me remember how good things really are, and allows me to focus on who I really want to be. I want that for everybody. I don't wish anyone pain, just perspective. That's what I'm hoping for as we all face the COVID-19 global pandemic. I wish health and peace and prosperity to all, but I also hope we don't forget this. People are dying across the globe. Healthcare facilities are being overwhelmed. Businesses and families are struggling economically. People are facing fear and isolation. We've seen a few acts of ignorance or greed or even hate during this time, but we've also seen a lot of good. We've seen love and kindness. We've seen people supporting others. We've been reminded that hard times often bring out the best in people. We're in a tough spot, but we can come away from this stronger. We can take a good, honest look at where we are and where we want to go, both as individuals and as a society. This is a tragedy, but forgetting the lessons we learned during this time would also be tragic. That's why I hope we remember. I hope we remember how much many of us have and how little we really need. I hope we remember that others are struggling now and always. I hope we remember the work of others and how it impacts our daily lives. I hope we remember to appreciate the things we have, and I hope we remember how quickly things can change. I hope we remember the power of the natural world and the power of the human spirit. I hope we remember we don't have control over every situation. I hope we remember we do have control of our attitudes. I hope we remember the fear and use it to make the world a little less fearful. I hope we remember the pain and use it to make the world a little less painful. I hope we remember how much we love our families and friends, and I hope we remember to tell them once in a while. I hope we remember how similar all people from all nations and backgrounds really are. I hope we remember how connected each of us really is. I hope we remember. That's the end of the blog post, and the thing that had me thinking about that was just our current situation. It is an unprecedented situation in our lifetimes, and I am sure, like you, am concerned about how this is impacting a lot of people right now and how it will continue to impact life after we pass the hardest part of this. And I really do want the best for everyone, but being that we're in this challenging situation, I want us to remember it. So often, individually and as a larger collective, it's easy to move past things, and we don't want to remember the difficult times. We want to bask in the good times, and that's important as well. But there's so much that can be learned from this time, and so much growth that can be made individually and collectively. So that's where my head was at this time, because during my most difficult times, I know it's been the opportunity for me to make the most growth and to do the most reflection. And I hope that we're able to do that a little bit. And sometimes I do catch myself getting wrapped up in the petty concerns of daily life, and I have to remind myself of when I was in a really difficult situation, and those little concerns weren't even a consideration. That helps me refocus my perspective and my goals. And I just hope that we're able to do the same coming out of this difficult situation and even now while we're in the middle of it, to take some time to really consider what we want and to set our compass toward where we want to be. I hope everyone's holding up okay. Much love.